but it is a fragile piece, and I think that for me it's a great privilege to have this place housing this piece, because it was the only chance this piece had to live. Without Inhotim, the piece will be dead. The piece will be trash, a pile of trash. So this is the only opportunity I had to have this piece standing and being perfectly well taken care of and beautifully installed, because there was a time people care, people were really working at it, so it is extraordinary. And besides the fact that the piece, in one hand, was local, I think every work has to be universal. And it is obvious that nowadays we all share these experiences. So for me it's very important that the piece is here and the people will come here and encounter a piece that has a very different relationship with the environment, because it is entering a completely different world. And I think that's very, very important.
Como parte da estratégia de formação de acervo e de criação de espaços expositivos, fazia muito sentido que essa obra, cuja realização era tão difícil e penosa, ficasse permanentemente num espaço de Inhotim. Uma artista que vem também do contexto latino-americano, que é um contexto que interessa bastante a coleção. É um trabalho em termos de cânone, né, que se relaciona com essa história do minimalismo, essa história da escultura, do trabalho espacial, né, do minimalismo para frente de uma outra maneira, né, de uma maneira que não é aquela hegemônica, mais próxima da tradição minimalista mesmo.
Well, I have always been obsessed by power and the way the powerful ones manipulate life. And I think the rawest way of doing it is in the concentration camps. So the concentration camps have always been very much in the center of my work. If you look at the history of the concentration camps, they were invented by the Spaniards in Cuba in 1896. This General Martinez Campos had the idea that in order to suppress the insurgents, the independence insurgency in Cuba, he would put all the people, civilian, everybody, and they will die naturally of diseases and everything. So I thought it was extraordinary how this idea came full circle. And with Guantanamo, it went back to Cuba. It originated in Cuba, then it went to, the British brought it to South Africa, then the Germans to West Africa, and it has a long life. I mean, it will be an endless list. And also for me, it's really disturbing the fact we used to think that in the 40s people maybe knew, maybe didn't know about the concentration camps, but actually nowadays we know they exist. So how is it to live with that knowledge? I find it extremely disturbing, and I think that's the beginning of. Well, it is when we are in our intimate space, we're surrounded by walls, our homes. So in our homes, we have a wall that make us feel protected, where we can have an intimate life, where we have the objects that feed our memories. So it's like our lives are very much centered in an interior space. So I wanted the presence of that interior space, the white wall, and at the same time, I wanted the extreme exteriority, which is the mesh, the metal mesh. So it's juxtaposing, I mean, literally forcing one, embedding one into the other. That's the way we live. I wanted a silent piece, a piece that would not narrate any story, and that was basically an experience. And the experience in there is that time is stopped. So it's not the chronological sequences of historical time. At the same time, you have no chance of remembering anything in there. Once you are there, remembrance is also stopped. And that was very important for me. For the inmates, the experience is that. You have no objects, you don't have a photograph, you don't have a letter, you don't have anything that your memories can hold on to. So it's total emptiness. And it is brutal. Actually, it is a form of torture to have spaces that have no sound, no visual reference, no nothing. It's total vacuum.
Acho que o Naida, ele é um encontro de uma grade, né, que seria um elemento de aprisionamento, com as próprias paredes da galeria. Então, essa transparência que a grade poderia prometer como perspectiva de escapatória, ela é negada nesse encontro, nessa fusão assim muito violenta, né, entre o elemento vazado e o elemento opaco, o elemento mais denso, que são as paredes, né?
I wanted to show the viewer my materials. So as you enter, you see the white wall and you see the mesh. Everything is there, clear. And then out of nothing, chaos and confusion is created out of this very rational space. So because I think it is the rationality of Western philosophy what directly sent us to the concentration camps. So I want that very rational, very clear look, and then in the midst of it there is confusion and you lose your sense of direction, which also I think that for me, coming from Colombia, it's a direct experience of war. Giorgio Agamben also talks about, the philosopher talks about la nuda vida, bare life, nothing, as opposed to a political life, which will be a complete life. So for me, it was important to have something that is bare, that is stripped of any memory, that you cannot really relate to anything. So it's a piece that when you see it, you can hardly know what are the materials, how was it made. It's very hard to go backwards to the genesis of it. Even though the materials are there, it's very hard to go back to the beginning. How was it made, and why is it here? And I want that experience to be non-reproducible one. Like you cannot reproduce that anywhere else, no matter what, because you have no idea how it was made. The process of making the piece, at the beginning, I wanted the literality of it. It is the mesh embedded into a wall. Literally, I wanted that. To achieve that, then the whole process became insane. We had to do many things, preparing the drywall to receive the mesh, and it was always impossible. As we worked, I was writing down the number of steps we had to take, and there were over 100 steps on every single square meter. And I was reading Beckett at the time, and I found a sentence that perfectly fit my situation at the time, which is failing better. And because we never learn how to do it. So there are subtle differences. And it was because every time it came out a little different, even though we always try to be almost scientific on the process, measuring time, measuring humidity, measuring pressure, and this is the result of it. So it's a huge effort, but I think the effort of making the piece also shows how difficult life is, and time-consuming, and maybe for nothing, maybe everything in vain. In this case, I mean, in the case of the inmates, like everything they do is in vain. So this piece, in a way, reflects that. So the making of the piece is very close together to the intention, to the homage I'm trying to pay to these inmates of concentration camps. I think that every one of my works is a failure because I work believing that I'm a very political person, and for me it's important to make certain statements. And so at that time, at the beginning, I'm a believer. And I'm making the piece with a total sense of I'm really trying to convey a story, to convey the experience, so the viewer could grasp that life that is lost and somehow bring that life out of the piece and continue in this life, as though you could have like an eternal life, like that life was not lost in vain. But once the piece is finished, I understand it is in vain, because it is art. And because it is art, it is useless, it is in vain, and at the same time it is poetical. So it's this ambiguity that art always has. So it is in vain, and it is, but I seriously, deeply, and profoundly try. The piece was made it took us like 2.5 years to complete the work. At the beginning, it was, we made hundreds and hundreds of tests on how to achieve this embedding of the mesh into the wall. Finally, we understood that we could technically melt plaster. So we melt that plaster, and then we added some like 1,000 pounds of pressure on each single square meter in order to press the mesh onto the panels. And then by hand, I wanted this ambiguity again of being torn by heel. So the press will create huge damage, and then by hand we tried to fix every single diamond is being worked on, every single one. It was 50 people for over 2 years working, 18 to 20-hour days. Very, very seldom we had a weekend off.
A gente trouxe uma equipe grande de Bogotá, de profissionais, arquitetos, montadores, restauradores, que são colaboradores frequentes da artista, trabalham no estúdio dela. Essa equipe teve por várias semanas aqui em Inhotim, trabalhando dentro do espaço para criar o trabalho. Toda essa parte de montagem mais mecânica, de colocação das placas, ela está mais ligada a essa equipe do arquiteto, do Carlos Granada, né? Então tem uma estrutura, essas placas são colocadas nessa estrutura, a inclinação delas, enfim, toda a colocação, esse quebra-cabeça, digamos assim, ele tem que ser feito com muita precisão, né? Existe um trabalho todo de montagem, de colocação dessas placas, e depois um trabalho que é feito de fora para dentro, e depois um trabalho interno, que é justamente essa pátina absurda que deve cobrir tudo e criar essa sensação de homogeneidade que é tão importante no trabalho, né, de continuidade das superfícies. Juntamente a essa equipe, a gente recrutou uma equipe grande de restauradores aqui da região de Belo Horizonte, com experiência em restauro, sobretudo, né, de arte colonial brasileira, mas que emprestaram uma expertise e uma força de trabalho muito concentrada, porque o que eu posso dizer é que o trabalho de montagem dessa obra é hercúleo, ele é uma coisa que, quanto mais tempo de trabalho se emprega, mais ele tem que sumir, né?
damos cuenta que tiene una punta así y así hacia allá. Entonces al nivelarlo esto es lo que pasó, porque este está a nivel con este.
No, pero yo me refiero al plano
Sí,
del
está
cromo.
sumido. Está
Míralo
sumido.
si verás, que es
Se
lo que
puede
pasa
poner
este.
se puede cambiar este.
E aí tinha a Pilar, que era mais nessa frente digamos, do restauro, né? De cuidar da pele, do trabalho mesmo, de fazer a pintura de cada losango, porque ele tem uma aparência industrial, o trabalho, porque o elemento, a grade, ele é um elemento feito industrialmente, né? Ele não é um elemento feito à mão, ele é feito por máquina. Mas acontece que nessa junção da parede, né, que é um gesso cartonado, com o elemento metálico, isso cria, quer dizer, isso tem que ser feito de um jeito em que tudo fica igual. O que precisa é ter uma homogeneidade, mas não ser idêntico. Então essa outra equipe, ela cuidava realmente de fazer a pintura de cada losango, de fazer, quer dizer, esse descascado ser uma coisa mais ou menos parecida em todo lugar, né? A gente teve a visita da Doris em alguns momentos, né? O momento de criação do edifício, de escolha da localização do edifício, de fechar o anteprojeto, né, do pavilhão. Foi um momento importante. Depois, já durante a montagem, mais próximo da abertura, ela veio também e terminou, né? Quer dizer, a finalização do trabalho foi todo com a presença dela.
I think that the fact that I'm talking about confinement, and then you go out and you see the world, the outside world, you see nature, it really reinforces the sense of confinement that the work is trying to convey. I was thinking that it is very difficult to address these issues. I think horror and the horror that takes place in these spaces is unspeakable. And I was on one hand trying to address that, on the other hand our ambiguity and trying to live a normal life when we are aware of what is happening. And how can we deal with it? How do we come to terms with that? So that ambiguity is what led me to the term neither. And the fact that you will never be able to address the real horror. It's just a hint.